The colonial vessel Eternal Spring moved slowly through the darkness of space. Around it floated broken pieces of metal, shattered glass, and the remains of what was once a busy mining station. The station had been destroyed 3 days ago. No one knew exactly what happened. Some said it was an accident. Others whispered about an attack, but none of that mattered to as she pulled herself through the wreckage. Was 32 years old. She worked as a, which meant she studied alien life forms. She had seen many strange things in her 10 years of space travel. She had touched creatures with 100 eyes. She had recorded the songs of beings made entirely of light, but nothing had prepared her for what she would find today. The emergency lights in her suit flickered red, then yellow, then red again. Her oxygen was running low. She should turn back. Her captain had already called 3 times, telling her to return to the ship, but had heard something on her scanner, a life sign, small, weak, fading. She pushed through a broken doorway and entered what remained of a cargo bay. Half the room was open to space, sealed only by an emergency force field that hummed with dying power. Boxes floated in the low gravity. Some were torn open, spilling strange alien goods across the floor. And there in the corner, huddled behind a stack of metal containers, she saw them. 3 small creatures pressed together in a tight ball of gray fur. Their bodies were shaking. Their eyes, huge and golden like twin suns, stared at her with pure terror. They were cubs, bobbies, no bigger than human toddlers. His breath caught in her throat. She knew what they were. Every spacer knew. Every soldier, every trader, every child who grew up hearing stories about the darkness between stars. These were cubs. They were hunters, not just hunters, they were the hunters. For thousands of years they had been the most feared predator species in 12 star systems. Adults stood 7 feet tall. Their claws could cut through battle armor. Their teeth could crush bone. They hunted in packs, silent and deadly, communicating through sounds that other species could not hear. Entire colonies had been wiped out by hunting parties. Wars had been fought to contain them. And now 3 of their young sat trembling before, crying in small voices that broke her heart. The largest cub lifted his head. He was gray with darker stripes along his back. His ears, large and pointed, pressed flat against his skull. He tried to hiss but the sound came out weak and broken. He was trying to protect his siblings. He was failing. Behind him, a smaller cub with lighter fur buried her face in her brother's side. She was shaking so hard they could see it from across the room. And the smallest one, barely larger than a human baby, simply stared at with wet eyes that held no hope. He had given up. His radio crackled. "What's your status? You need to get back here now. The force fields are failing across the station." She pressed the button on her helmet. "I found survivors." "What? How many are they?" "No," swallowed. "They're 3 cubs." The silence on the radio lasted a long time. Then her spoke, his voice careful and controlled. "Leave them." "What?" "Leave them. The rescue ships will be here in 6 hours. They'll handle it. Those things will grow up to be killers. You don't want to." Turned off her radio. She looked at the cubs again. The largest one was still trying to hiss, but now tears were running down his furry face. He was just a child pretending to be brave. The middle one had started to cry out loud, a sound like a kitten in pain, and the smallest one had closed his eyes as if waiting to die. Thought about her own childhood. She remembered being small. She remembered being scared. She remembered the night her parents' ship had crashed on a frozen moon, and how she had hidden in a storage locker for 2 days before the rescue teams found her. She remembered how it felt to be alone and afraid and certain that no one was coming. She walked toward the cubs. The largest one tried to stand, tried to put himself between and his siblings. His legs shook. He fell. He got up again. His golden eyes were wide with fear, but also with something else. Determination. He would die before he let anything hurt his family. Knelt down slowly. She made herself small. She kept her hands open and visible. "It's okay," she said softly. Her translator probably couldn't handle their language, but she hoped they would understand her tone. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm going to help." The cub stared at her. His nose twitched, had an incredible sense of smell. He was reading her, learning her, deciding if she was a threat. Stayed very still. She let him smell her fear, her sadness, her determination. She had nothing to hide. Long seconds passed. Then slowly the cub's ears lifted, just a little. His body relaxed, just slightly. He made a small sound in his throat, something between a whine and a chirp. The middle cub peeked out from behind her brother. Her eyes met. They were lighter gold, almost amber, beautiful and full of pain. Reached out her hand, not grabbing, just offering. The smallest cub moved first. He crawled out from the huddle, his tiny body dragging across the floor. He reached his hand and pressed his face against her palm. His fur was soft. His body was cold. He was shaking. Something broke inside his chest. Not a bad breaking, a necessary one. A wall she didn't know she had built came crumbling down. She picked up the smallest cub and held him against her chest. He weighed almost nothing. His small claws gripped her jumpsuit, holding on with desperate strength. The middle cub came next. She climbed into his arm without hesitation, pressing herself against her brother, reaching for warmth and safety. The largest cub hesitated. He looked at his siblings, already clinging to this strange alien creature. He looked back at the darkness of the broken station, at the bodies floating in the distance, at the home he would never see again. Then he walked forward and pressed himself against the side. Stood carefully holding all three cubs. They weighed more than she expected. Her arms ached. Her oxygen warning beeped again. She had maybe 15 minutes of air left. She started walking back toward the ship. Her radio turned itself back on. Emergency override. Her captain's voice filled her helmet. "We're tracking your position. What are you doing? The station is about to collapse." "I'm coming back," said. "I'm bringing 3 passengers." "You can't be serious. Do you know what those things are?" "They're children." His voice was calm and certain. "They're scared and alone and they need help. That's all I need to know." She walked through the broken corridors of the dying station. The cubs clung to her, their small hearts beating fast against her body. They didn't understand what was happening. They didn't know that every species in the galaxy feared their kind. They only knew that this strange creature had picked them up when they were about to die. The force field behind her finally failed. The cargo bay exploded into space. Didn't look back. She reached the airlock of the Eternal Spring just as her oxygen hit 0. The door opened. She stumbled inside. The cubs held on. Her stared at her with horror in their eyes. Looked down at the 3 small faces pressed against her chest. The largest one had fallen asleep. The middle one was watching everything with wide, curious eyes. The smallest one had not let go of her jumpsuit. "Their names," said quietly, though she didn't know why, are. She had just decided. The galaxy would learn to fear these 3. But right now, in this moment, they were just cubs who needed a mother. And had decided to be one. 3 months had passed since brought the cubs aboard the Eternal Spring. The ship had delivered them to a research station called Lighthouse 7, a massive structure floating in the empty space between 2 solar systems. The station was home to scientists, diplomats, and travelers from dozens of species. It was supposed to be a place of learning and cooperation. But it had become a place of confusion and pain. Walked through the station's main corridor with holding her hand. The little cub had grown in 3 months. She now reached hip, her gray fur thick and healthy, her amber eyes bright with curiosity. She liked to ask questions about everything she saw. What is that machine? Why does that person have 4 arms? What do those lights mean? But today was quiet. She pressed close to his leg and kept her head down. A group of merchants walked toward them. When they saw, they stopped. Their faces changed. Fear, hatred. One of them reached for something on his belt before his friend stopped him. Sgrippon's hand tightened. She made a small sound in her throat, not a growl, a whimper. Stared at the merchants until they looked away and hurried past. Then she knelt down and looked its face. "Are you okay?" Its ears were flat against her head. "Why do they look at me like that? Did I do something wrong?" Felt her heart crack a little more. It had been cracking every day for 3 months. "No, baby, you didn't do anything wrong. Some people are just scared of things they don't understand." "But I'm not scary," looked up with genuine confusion. "I'm small. I don't even have my big teeth yet." Pulled her into a hug. I know you're not scary, and one day everyone else will know it too." She wished she believed her own words. Back in their quarters was waiting for them. He had grown the most of the 3 cubs. He was almost as tall as now, his body filling out with the muscle that would one day make him a powerful adult. Dark stripes ran down his back and along his arms. His claws had grown longer, sharper. When he walked, his footsteps were silent, a hunter's instinct he couldn't control. But his eyes were still the eyes of a child, and right now they were red from crying. "What happened?" asked immediately. Shook his head. He was sitting on the floor in the corner, his knees pulled up to his chest, was curled up beside him, sleeping with his thumb in his mouth. "The doctor," said finally. "The station doctor. She came to do our medical check." Felt cold anger rising in her stomach. What did she do? "She wore a protection suit, the big kind, like we're poison," the voice cracked. "She didn't touch us. She used machines with long arms. She talked to her assistant the whole time like we weren't there. She said—" He stopped. "What did she say?" "She said it was amazing how normal we seemed. She said it wouldn't last. She said our true nature would show itself soon." Looked up at, and tears ran down his furry cheeks. "What does that mean? What is my true nature? Am I going to become something bad?" Crossed the room and sat down beside him. She pulled him into her arms, even though he was almost too big to hold now. He pressed his face against her shoulder and cried like the child he still was. "Listen to me," said firmly. "Your true nature is what you choose to be, not what some ignorant doctor thinks, not what the history books say about your species. You get to decide who you are. Do you understand?" Nodded against her shoulder, but she could feel that he didn't really believe her. Across the station, Doctor sat in his office watching the security feeds. He was the station commander, a thin man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had served in the border conflicts 20 years ago. He had seen what adult could do. His assistant, a young woman named, stood beside him. "They're just sitting there," she said, watching the feed of quarters. "The big one is crying, the little one is sleeping, the girl is drawing pictures." "For now," said. "Sir, with respect, they've been here 3 months. They haven't hurt anyone. They haven't even been aggressive. The worst thing the big one did was knock over a food tray by accident." "For now," repeated. "You didn't see what I saw. You didn't watch your friends get torn apart by creatures that looked just like those cubs. Bigger, yes, but the same claws, the same teeth, the same eyes." Was quiet for a moment. Maybe they don't have to be the same. Shook his head. "That's what people always say, right up until the killing starts." But even as he said it, he watched the feed. He watched holding the crying cub. He watched the small one sleep peacefully. He watched the girl carefully drawing a picture with crayons had given her. For just a moment, doubt flickered in his old, tired heart. That night woke up screaming. It happened often. The smallest cub had nightmares almost every night. He would cry out in the language words that was slowly learning. "Mother, father, fire, hurts, please." Was at his side in seconds. She gathered him into her arms and rocked him gently. "It's okay. You're safe. I'm here." Clung to her, his small claws pricking her skin through her shirt. He was shaking so hard his teeth chattered. "The fire," he whispered. "The fire was everywhere. Mother told me to hide. She told me to take care of, and she told me to be brave." "And you were brave," said. "You were so brave. You kept them safe until I found you." I couldn't save her, his voice broke. I couldn't save anyone. Held him, she didn't have words that would make this better. There were no words for this kind of pain, so she just held him and let him cry until he fell asleep again. In the other bed, watched with dark eyes. He didn't say anything but saw his expression. He was memorizing this, learning, watching how cared for his brother so that one day he could do the same. He was becoming something, not the monster the galaxy expected, something else. The next morning, a diplomat came to the station. His name was, and he was from the collective. He had 4 eyes, blue skin, and a permanent expression of disgust on his face. He met with in the observation room while the cubs played in the garden outside. Through the window, she could see chasing a butterfly-like creature while pretended not to be interested. Sat in the grass, watching flowers grow. The Galactic Council has concerns, said. You have been granted temporary guardianship of 3 cubs. This is unprecedented, and many believe it is unwise. Their children said, they needed help, I helped them. They are not children. They are juvenile members of a predator species with a documented history of violence spanning 3,000 years. What you call helping may be better described as delayed suicide. His hands tightened into fists under the table. Have you actually looked at them? Have you seen them play or laugh or cry? Have you watched try to count stars before bed? Have you heard sing when he thinks no one is listening? These behaviors are irrelevant. Neural development follows a predictable pattern. Within 2 years, their hunting instincts will fully activate. They will. They will what? Leaned forward. Become exactly what you expect them to become. Maybe that's because everyone keeps telling them that's what they'll be. Maybe if someone actually loved them, actually believed in them, they could become something else. His 4 eyes blinked slowly. You are naive. And you are afraid, stood up. This meeting is over. She walked out of the room and went straight to the garden. The cubs saw her coming and ran to meet her, jumped into her arms, pressed against her side, grabbed her hand and held it tight. They didn't know why the galaxy hated them. They didn't understand the blood that stained their species' history. They only knew that made them feel safe. And looking at their faces, made a silent promise. She would show the galaxy that they were wrong. She would raise these children with love instead of fear. She would prove that monsters are not born. They are made. And she would make something beautiful instead. 6 months had passed since the cubs arrived at Lighthouse 7. In that time had taught them many things. She taught them how to read in 3 languages. She taught them mathematics and science. She taught them songs from Earth, silly songs about sunshine and friendship that made giggle and smile. She taught them how to say please and thank you, how to share, how to apologize when they made mistakes. But the most important thing she taught them was something she never said out loud. She taught them, every single day, that they were worthy of love. Stood in front of the mirror in their quarters. He was almost as tall as now. His body was changing quickly. Muscles grew under his fur. His claws had become sharp enough to scratch metal. When he smiled, his teeth looked dangerous even when he was happy. He stared at himself for a long time. Mother, he said quietly. He had started calling that 2 months ago. The word had slipped out by accident one night and then he couldn't stop. Mother, am I ugly? Looked up from where she was helping with her homework. What? No, why would you ask that? Because everyone looks at me like I am. Touched his own face. They see my teeth and my claws and they run away. Even the other children on the station. They invited to play once, but when I walked over, they screamed and ran. His heart ached. She walked over to him and stood beside him, looking at their reflection together. A human woman and a teenager. An unlikely pair. You are not ugly, she said firmly. You are strong. You are growing into someone powerful. And yes, your teeth are sharp and your claws are long, but that doesn't make you ugly. It makes you. You. But they're afraid of me. They're afraid of what they think you might become. That's different. Put her hand on his shoulder. Do you remember what I told you when I first brought you to this station? Nodded slowly. You said that what I choose to be is more important than what I was born as. That's right, and what do you choose to be? Thought for a long moment. I want to be kind like you. I want to protect people. I want to help. Smiled. Then that's what you are. And anyone who can't see past your claws to see your heart doesn't deserve to know you. Looked up from her homework. Mother, I finished the math problems. Can I draw now? Let me check your work first. Walked back to the table and looked at its paper. The little cub had gotten every problem correct. Her handwriting was neat and careful. Perfect. Yes, you can draw. Grabbed her crayons eagerly. She had become an amazing artist in the past 6 months. Her drawings covered the walls of their quarters. Flowers, stars, the faces of people she had met. And in almost every picture there was a human woman holding hands with 3 gray cubs. Was in the corner, reading a book about Earth animals. He had become fascinated with Earth after learning about its home planet. He loved hearing stories about elephants and dolphins and wolves. He loved learning about how humans had once been hunters too. Mother, he said, not looking up from his book, it says here that humans used to hunt with spears and arrows, that you killed big animals with your hands and ate their meat. That's true, said, a very long time ago. But you don't do that anymore. Some humans still hunt, but most of us get our food from farms and stores now. We changed. We evolved. Finally looked up. His eyes, golden like his siblings but with flecks of green, were thoughtful. So humans used to be predators too, like us. Yes. But you're not scary now. You're gentle, you help people. Closed his book. So maybe we can change too. Maybe one day won't be scary anymore. Knelt down beside him. I think you're already changing, little one. All 3 of you are. The door chime rang. Checked the security screen and saw Ambassador standing outside with 2 guards and a device she didn't recognize. Stay here, she told the cubs. I'll handle this. She stepped outside and closed the door behind her. Ambassador, I didn't expect you back so soon. His 4 eyes narrowed. The council has sent me to conduct a formal assessment. We have developed a new scanning technology that measures aggressive neural patterns. The cubs will be tested. And if they fail, they will be relocated to a containment facility. Felt her blood go cold. You mean a prison? I mean a place where they can be properly monitored, where their natural violent tendencies can be controlled before they hurt someone. They're children, they haven't hurt anyone. Yet gestured to his guards. Step aside, the test will proceed. Didn't move. You don't understand what you're doing, she said. You're so afraid of what they might become that you're going to make them into exactly what you fear. If you lock them up, if you treat them like monsters, they'll believe they are monsters. Is that what you want? What I want is irrelevant. What matters is public safety. Public safety. Laughed, but there was no humor in it. Did you know that humans killed 60 million of each other in a single war? That we built weapons that could destroy entire cities in seconds? That children on Earth play games where they pretend to shoot each other before they can even read? Stared at her. By your logic, continued, I should be the most dangerous thing on this station. Humans have caused more destruction than any other species in known history. We hunted creatures to extinction for fun. We poisoned our own planet. We developed weapons that could end all life. She stepped closer to the ambassador. He stepped back. But I'm also the one who sings those cubs to sleep every night. I'm the one who holds them when they cry. I'm the one who teaches them that violence is not the answer, that kindness matters, that every life has value. Her voice dropped to something quiet and dangerous. What a species can do is not the same as what they will do, and what they become depends entirely on who raises them. Guards shifted nervously. They had never seen anyone speak to the ambassador this way. You are making threats, said. I'm making a promise. eyes were hard as stone. "Those cubs are my children. I don't care what species they are. I don't care what the history books say. They are mine, and I will protect them from anyone who tries to hurt them, including you." For a long moment, no one moved. Then the door behind opened, stepped out. He had heard everything. He walked past and stood in front of. The ambassador's guards immediately raised their weapons but made no aggressive move. He simply stood there, looking at the ambassador with calm, golden eyes. "You think I'm a monster," said. His voice was steady. "You think that one day I'll kill someone. Maybe you're right. Maybe there's something dark inside me that I can't control." His four eyes were wide with fear. "But my mother is teaching me something different. She's teaching me that I have a choice. Every day, every moment, I get to choose what kind of person I want to be." Looked at the guards, at their weapons pointed at his chest. "I could probably hurt you if I wanted to. I'm strong, I'm fast. My claws are sharp, but I don't want to hurt anyone. I just want to live. I want to learn. I want to make my mother proud." He turned and looked at. His eyes were wet with tears he was trying not to shed. "That's what humans taught me," he said. "That the thing you choose to be is more important than the thing you were born as." Silence filled the corridor. Then slowly one of the guards lowered his weapon. The other followed. Stared at for a long time, something shifted in his expression. Not quite acceptance, not quite understanding, but something. "The test," he said finally, "can wait." He turned and walked away, his guards following. Put her arm around shoulders. "I'm so proud of you." Leaned against her, finally letting the tears fall. "I was so scared." "I know, but you were brave anyway. That's what courage is." Inside their quarters and watched through the window, they had seen everything. They had heard every word. And in their young hearts, something took root, a belief that would grow stronger every day. They were not monsters. They were children. And they had a mother who would never let anyone tell them otherwise. 1 year had passed. The cubs were not cubs anymore. Was now taller than. His shoulders were broad, his muscles powerful, his presence commanding. When he walked into a room, people noticed. Some still feared him, but others had begun to see what had always seen, a gentle soul trapped in a warrior's body. Had grown into a curious and bright young female. She talked constantly, asking questions about everything from quantum physics to the best way to make pancakes. Her drawings had become sophisticated art pieces. The station's cultural center had asked to display some of her work, making her the first artist to be featured anywhere in civilized space. Had remained the quietest of the three, but his silence hid a sharp mind. He spent hours reading, learning, watching. He had memorized the layout of the entire station. He knew every corridor, every vent, every hidden passage. He said it made him feel safe to know all the ways out of a place. Looked at her children and felt her heart overflow with pride. They had proven everyone wrong. They had grown into kind, thoughtful, loving people. The Galactic Council's fears seemed foolish now. But not everyone had given up their hatred. The message arrived on a quiet morning. It was from the Council itself. The cubs were to be relocated to a rehabilitation facility on a distant moon. They would be raised by machines, trained, taught to be proper, whatever that meant. The decision was final. Threw the tablet against the wall so hard it shattered. "No," she said. "No, I won't let them take you." What followed was 3 months of fighting. Hired lawyers. She gave interviews. She begged and argued and screamed at anyone who would listen. Her colleague, who had spent months helping her learn the language, worked day and night to find legal loopholes. Captain, who had once been afraid of the cubs, before the council about how it helped calm a panicking crew member during an emergency. Even Doctor, the station commander who had watched them through security cameras with distrust in his eyes, submitted a formal statement. "I was wrong about them," he wrote. "I saw what I expected to see instead of what was actually there. These are not monsters. These are children who have been given love instead of fear. and they have become something I never thought possible." But the council remained unmoved. The decision stood. The transport ship was scheduled to arrive in 3 days. Cried herself to sleep every night, stopped eating, disappeared into the station's ventilation system for hours at a time, only coming out when called for him. And then on the second night, everything changed. The attack came without warning. A group of extremists had infiltrated the station. They were part of a faction that believed the only good was a dead. They had learned about the Cubs. They had come to finish what they called God's work. Alarms screamed through the corridors. Emergency lights bathed everything in red. Grabbed the Cubs and ran toward the medical bay, the most secure location on the station. They almost made it. The extremists caught them 2 corridors away. 5 warriors in black armor, carrying weapons designed to kill creatures much larger than humans. Their leader, a female with hatred burning in her eyes, pointed her rifle at. "Step away from the monsters," she said. Didn't move. She pushed the Cubs behind her, shielding them with her body. "They're not monsters, they're children. They're abominations. Their kind killed my family, killed thousands of families. They don't deserve to live. They weren't even alive when those things happened. They're innocent." "No is innocent." The leader raised her weapon. "You can die with them if you want, makes no difference to me." Something changed in the air. Stepped forward. He moved around despite her trying to stop him. His body positioned itself between the weapons and his family. The fur along his spine rose. A sound emerged from his throat, something ancient and terrifying, a hunter's warning that had struck fear into countless species for thousands of years. The warriors hesitated. Even with their weapons, even with their armor, they felt something primal crawl up their spines. This was what they had come to destroy. This was why the galaxy feared but didn't attack. He just stood there, his golden eyes locked on the leader. "You can kill me," he said. His voice was steady, though his heart was pounding. "But you will not touch my mother. You will not touch my sisters. If you want them, you have to go through me first. And I promise you I won't make it easy." Behind him grabbed a medical laser from a nearby cart. Her hands were shaking, but she held it pointed at the attackers. "I'm not leaving my family," she said. "I'm not letting you hurt them." The leader laughed. 2 children against 5 trained soldiers. This will be easy." "3's voice came from above them. Everyone looked up. Was in the ventilation system, looking down through a grate. His eyes were calm, calculating. In his hand was a control panel he had ripped from the wall. "I've locked down this entire section," he said. "Sealed every door, disabled the override. Security will be here in 4 minutes. You can shoot us if you want, but you won't escape. You'll spend the rest of your lives in prison for killing children. Is that really what you want?" The leader's eyes widened. She looked at the sealed doors. She tried her communicator. Nothing. "You're bluffing." "I've lived on this station for a year. I know every system, every code, every weakness in the security grid." His voice was cold. "I'm not bluffing." 3 minutes passed. No one moved. The warriors looked at each other with growing fear. This wasn't what they had expected. They had expected helpless targets. They had expected easy kills. They hadn't expected children who would fight back, who would sacrifice themselves for each other, who had learned courage from a human woman who refused to give up on them. 2 minutes left. The leader lowered her weapon. "This isn't over," she said. "Your kind will never be safe. The galaxy will never accept you." "Maybe," said, "but today isn't the day you win." 1 minute. The attackers ran. They found a maintenance shaft had left unsealed on purpose, giving them a way out, a way to escape without anyone dying. Security arrived 30 seconds later to find holding all 3 of her children in her arms, all of them alive, none of them having taken a single life. The news spread across the station, across the sector, across the galaxy. 3 children had faced armed terrorists and chosen not to kill. They had defended themselves and their mother without shedding a drop of blood. They had been brave and smart and merciful. The council received millions of messages in the following days, from scientists who wanted to study how this was possible, from parents who saw echoes of their own children in the cubs' faces, from survivors of attacks who found themselves questioning everything they believed, and most importantly from other, hidden colonies, scattered survivors, families who had been in hiding for generations. They saw the news feeds. They saw 3 of their young standing tall and proud and gentle. They saw hope. The council's decision was quietly overturned 2 weeks later. The cubs would stay with no conditions, no monitoring, just a family allowed to be a family. On the night the news arrived, sat with her children in their quarters, was drawing, was reading, was staring out the window at the stars. Mother said quietly, "When those soldiers had their guns on us, I wanted to hurt them. I wanted to tear them apart for threatening you. The feeling was so strong, I almost couldn't control it." Looked at him, "But you did control it." "Barely." "That's enough." She stood and walked over to him. "Do you think humans don't feel that? When someone threatens the people we love, we want to destroy them. That's not a thing. That's a living thing. What makes you good is not the absence of those feelings. It's the choice to not act on them." Turned to look at her. "You really believe we can change, that our species can be different?" Put her hand on his cheek, feeling the soft fur, the warmth of his skin. "I believe in you," she said. "I believe in your sisters, and I believe that every time you choose kindness over violence, you make it easier for the next to do the same." She smiled. "The galaxy learned to fear you. Now you're going to teach them to hope." Closed his eyes and leaned into her touch. Outside the window, the stars burned on, ancient and indifferent. But something had shifted in the darkness, something small, something new. The beginning of change. 10 years later, the Great Hall of the Galactic Council was filled with beings from 100 different worlds. Diplomats in fine robes, military officers in decorated uniforms, scientists, traders, politicians, journalists. All of them had come to witness something that many believed impossible. I was about to address the council. Sat in the gallery, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Beside her sat, his hair now gray at the temples, his eyes still kind. On her other side sat, who had risen to the rank of admiral and still made time to visit her old friends whenever she could. The hall fell silent as a figure walked to the central platform. Stood before the council. He was magnificent, nearly 8 feet tall, his gray fur marked with the dark stripes of his family line. His golden eyes swept across the assembly without fear, without anger, without any of the violence the galaxy had expected from his kind. He wore simple clothes, no weapons, no armor, just himself. "Honored representatives," he began, his voice carrying through the vast hall. "I stand before you today as something many of you believed could not exist, a who chooses peace, a predator who hunts only for understanding, a monster who learned to love." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. 10 years ago, I was a cub hiding in the wreckage of a destroyed station. My parents were dead. My people were scattered and hunted. I had no hope. I was ready to die. Paused. And then a human woman found me. She picked me up. She held me against her chest, and she carried me to safety. In the gallery, wiped tears from her eyes. She could have left me. Everyone told her to. They said I was dangerous. They said I would grow up to kill her. They said it was in my nature, in my blood, in my very soul to destroy. His voice grew stronger. They were wrong. My mother taught me something that I want to share with all of you today. She taught me that what we are born as does not determine what we become. She taught me that fear is a choice, and so is love. She taught me that the deadliest claws in the universe are useless against a gentle heart. He looked directly at the delegation. Many of them shifted uncomfortably. "I know what my species has done. I know the blood that stains our history. I cannot change the past. I cannot bring back the lives that were lost, but I can build a different future. That is what I choose to do. That is what my siblings choose to do. That is what more and more are choosing every day. Because one human showed us another way. The hall was utterly silent. Humans are strange, continued, and a small smile crossed his face. They are weak. They have no claws, no fangs, no armor. By every measure they should be prey, but they are not. They have something more powerful than any weapon. They have hope. They believe in change. They believe that anyone can become better. My mother believed in me when no one else did. And because she believed, I became someone worth believing in. He raised his head high. I am son of, brother of, and I am not your enemy. I am not your monster. I am your fellow citizen of this galaxy, and I am asking you to give my people a chance to prove that we can be more than what we were. He stepped back from the platform. For a long moment, no one moved. Then from somewhere in the gallery, someone started clapping, then another, then another. The applause spread like wildfire until the entire hall was thundering with it. Beings who had feared for generations stood and cheered. Some wept. Some simply stared in disbelief. The galaxy was changing. After the ceremony, found in a quiet corridor overlooking the stars, he was alone, staring out at the infinite darkness. That was beautiful, she said. He turned to look at her. Despite his size, despite his claws and teeth, he was still her son. She could still see the scared cub she had pulled from the wreckage all those years ago. I almost couldn't do it, he admitted. Standing up there, seeing all those faces that still fear us, I wanted to run. But you didn't. No, he smiled. I remembered what you taught me. That courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing what's right even when you're terrified. Reached up and touched his face. He had to bend down for her to reach, but he did, just as he always had. I'm so proud of you, she whispered, all three of you. In another part of the building, was surrounded by journalists asking about her work. She had become like her mother, specializing in predator species integration. Her research had helped dozens of species thought to be too dangerous for civilized society find peaceful coexistence. She answered their questions with patience and grace, but her eyes kept drifting to the window, looking for her family. Was not at the ceremony. He never attended public events. His work took him to darker places, quieter places. He had become a negotiator, specializing in conflicts that seemed impossible to resolve. He went to war zones and spoke to warlords. He visited prisons and listened to the worst criminals. He found the pain behind the violence and helped heal it. His methods were unusual. He didn't threaten or manipulate. He simply understood. He had spent so long feeling like a monster that he knew exactly how to reach others who felt the same. When asked how he could remain so calm in such dangerous situations, he always gave the same answer. My mother taught me that everyone deserves to be heard, even the ones who have forgotten how to speak without screaming. That evening, the family gathered for dinner at a small restaurant near the council building. Just the four of them, like it had always been. Now in her 50s with gray streaking her dark hair, towering and gentle, bright-eyed and talking excitedly about her latest project. Quiet as always, but with a peace in his eyes that hadn't been there when he was young. Do you remember, said between bites, when you first brought us to Lighthouse 7, and that doctor came in wearing a full hazard suit? I remember wanting to bite her, admitted. Not hard, just a little, to make a point. But you didn't, said. No, you told me that proving people wrong takes longer than proving them right. That anyone can confirm their fears, but it takes courage to challenge them. Spoke up, his voice soft. I remember the first night. You sang us that song about the sunshine. We didn't understand the words, but your voice was so gentle. I thought maybe everything would be okay. Felt tears threatening again. And was it okay? The three siblings looked at each other. Then, together, They reached across the table and took her hands. It was more than okay, said. It was everything. Later that night, walked alone through the station gardens. The same gardens where had once chased butterflies while pretended not to care and watched flowers grow. The same gardens where she had faced Ambassador and declared that her children were not monsters. A young girl was sitting on a bench, watching something on her tablet. As passed, she glanced at the screen. It was a recording of speech from earlier that day. The girl noticed looking and smiled shyly. "He's amazing," she said. "Did you know that he's the first ambassador ever? My grandmother says are scary, but he doesn't seem scary. He seems nice." Smiled back. "He is nice. He's one of the kindest people I know. I wish I could meet him. Maybe you will someday." Continued walking, her heart full of something that felt like completion. She had saved 3 children from a broken station. She had raised them with love when the galaxy expected violence. She had watched them grow from terrified cubs into adults who were changing everything. The galaxy had learned to fear but now it was learning something new. That the most dangerous creature in the universe is not the one with the sharpest claws. It is the one who has something worth protecting. And nothing is more dangerous than a mother who refuses to let go. Looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, other children were being born. They would grow up in a galaxy that was slowly, painfully, beautifully beginning to change. They would have choices that their ancestors never had. Paths that had been closed for thousands of years were opening again. Because one human had decided that love was stronger than fear. And she had been right. The cubs had clung to her for safety, never knowing the galaxy feared them. But now the galaxy was learning to see what she had seen all along. Not monsters. Children. And that made all the difference.